¡Vamos, hostia! ¡Vamos, hostia! ¡Vamos, hostia! ¡Vamos, hostia!
Oh, well, that worked pretty well, didn't it? Hello, I'm Richard, and welcome to my channel over and over and over again. I've got my video sorted out this week, so I'm quite happy about that, which is good. Obviously, it's the fourth edition of the Positive Arsenal podcast, the fourth one already, which is good. As you can see, I've got some guests with me tonight. Just before we introduce them, just if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so, because this is the first time it's actually going out on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So if you're watching on either of those two, please come across and subscribe. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up as well. And I say, if you've got any comments as well about anything as we go along, just drop them in the box. That'll be great. Right, okay. So first of all, then joining me tonight, we've got Melvin again. Back again. You've been on before, haven't you? Are you all right?
Yeah. Thanks. Great. I really enjoy coming on this channel. Lovely. Thanks very much.
Nice. It's a pleasure to have you on. And of course, we've got our regular, well, he seems to be regular at the moment, Andrew, back again as well.
Yeah, seems like I'm your co-host. Yeah.
You're here so often, you're here as often as me.
It's great to be on again. Thank you ever so much for having me.
And we've got a newcomer to this channel. Obviously, he's not a newcomer to us. It's Mike, of course, who usually is asking us questions that we can't answer. But it's good to be able to actually have a little chat about Arsenal instead for a change.
Yeah, thanks very much, Richard. I appreciate you inviting me on, sir.
No problem at all. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. So I say what we want to start with really is obviously we're back in Premier League action this weekend after the international break, which I know was quite annoying for everybody. And it's not the easiest game to come back to, is it? Manchester City away, not a ground that we've done particularly well on over recent years. Understandably so when you look at how much difference there's been in the teams, I guess. Obviously, it's important, I think, an important game for us. And, of course, as well, the possibility of a certain new player might be playing, which is even more exciting. So, Melvin, I'll start with you. What's your kind of thoughts going into the game on Saturday? How do you feel it might go for us?
Well, I'm very, like I said before we started, I'm very excited now, which hasn't been the stat the last few years. I'm excited, looking forward to the game. Really looking forward to it. Not just because of the international break. Every week I'm looking forward to the game, break or no break. So, I think I'm quite confident. I think we could do okay. But can't be worse than we've been doing the last few years up there. So I think we will see a vast improvement. And with the team, it's the team he would probably pick, not me. So his team will obviously be better. But I'll probably be going with something like Leno, obviously, in goal, Holding Luiz and Gabriel, Bellerin and AMN left wing back, because obviously Tierney can't play because he plays for Arsenal. Won't let him play. I think any other club would have someone playing, wouldn't they? Anyway,
Yeah, probably.
crack on with that one. I don't think I'd like to see him play. I don't think he'll play Partey straight away. I don't think he will.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he will. But he'll stay with Xhaka and Ceballos in the middle, and the front three. I think it'll probably be obviously Aubameyang, probably Laka up front, with on the right. He might go Pepe. Yeah, I think he'll probably go Pepe. Yeah, I was thinking of Saka actually, because they do to have a little bit. I'd probably Saka actually, because a bit more control on the wings. So to help out defensively. Yes, Saka on the right. Though it's not his position, I think he will play him there.
Well, he's played there a couple of times, hasn't he? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's got such good. The way he receives the ball, he's not. Though he's one-footed, it doesn't make a big difference to him because he's so confident. The way he receives the ball, he doesn't have to be in like one position, and also he does use his right foot from time to time. Yeah. It's not like some of our other one-footed players that only use it to stand on. He actually uses the other leg. So no, I think they can play that. And I think we'd get a draw. I really do. I think it'd be a 1-1 draw.
Well, I'm sure we'd all take that now, I would have thought. But what about yourself, Andrew? What do you think about the obviously the game and the lineup we might do? Do you think Partey might start?
I hope so. I really do. I really do hope he plays, and I think he might play. I think he might surprise everyone and surprise Pep as well. I think he might actually go for it. The way to beat them, as you know, everyone's shown lately, is to just get them in a running race at the back. So I think he might go with pace up front, and I'm wondering whether he might just surprise everyone and go with the 4-3-3 tomorrow at the weekend. Sorry. I last heard and I saw on Twitter that it's not definite that Tierney ain't playing.
No, it's not definite yet. No, they're still in negotiations with all the authorities by the sound of it, and they haven't had this final decision yet. I think it's going to be tomorrow when they'll definitely know. No, I mean, if he's fit, I think that's going to be a massive, or not fit, but if he's able to play, it's going to be a massive bonus, isn't it? Because I think he's
absolutely
been a massive player for us, hasn't he?
I don't think they've got a leg to stand on stopping him playing.
No, I don't see how they
he's
can.
He's not in Scotland anymore. You know, he's in England and he's tested negative several times. So
yeah, no, I don't know
I
why.
don't see what the issue is.
No, I don't know.
I'm going to go on the proviso that he is playing, because I would have obviously Leno in goal, but I'd have him at the left back, obviously Bellerin right back, and Gabriel at the left centre half, and it's a tough one. Probably Louise, but I would personally, I'd go for Gabriel and Holding, or if he's actually fit, I may even go for Chambers and Gabriel. Personally, I think that might be quite a good pairing in the interim. But I'd have Xhaka on the left-hand side of a midfield three. Well, this is not. I wouldn't actually. I would have Saka on the left of a midfield three, but I think if he was doing it, he'd have Xhaka, then Ceballos pushing forward a bit more than he normally does, Partey on the right of the midfield three, and then up front I would have Aubameyang down the middle, Pepe on the right, and probably. Yeah, no, it's a tough one. No, Aubameyang on the left, Lacazette down the middle, Pepe on the right. That's what I'd probably go for personally, and definitely use the pace of Pepe and Aubameyang to get in behind them and get them into a running race.
Well, yeah. I mean, what about in terms of the result? What do you think the result might be? I know it's difficult to know until we see the team, I suppose, but
I'm positive, really positive about it. I think we're going to do them. I think we'll do them 2-1, 2-0. I'll probably go for 2-0. I think we're going to... thank you very much, Jonathan.
I was going to say, Jonathan's a fan, Andrew. That was a good show, the Bernard Butler one, actually. That was brilliant, that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that show, yeah. We had a good one yesterday, actually. Really interesting chat about that, the Premier League situation at the moment, which is really interesting. But, I'm regarding the result, I look at Pep at the moment, and I mean, this is going back to the semi-final, and I've mentioned this a few times, but he looks like a broken man on the semi-final. And you just look at his face and look into his eyes; he just looks like he's he's finished. At the
Yeah,
moment.
it was nice actually today. Did you hear Arteta's interview? He sort of said he was asked about whether he thinks Pep's going to sign a new contract at City, and he said obviously he didn't know, but he did say that he just wants him to be happy. And I thought that was a really nice thing to say because obviously they're good mates, aren't they? And I thought that was really nice of Arteta actually. You know, to say he wants him to be happy. I do think if he wants to be happy, he needs to get away from Manchester City quite sharpish. But we'll see.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I haven't seen the anything yet. I've just got in from work just before we started here. So I'll have to watch that when we finished it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. So it's nice that he's, they're still mates, obviously. But hopefully on Saturday they'll put that aside like they did in the FA Cup game and. Let battle commence, as it were. I mean, what about yourself, Mark? What are you thinking about the game on Saturday? What team do you think you would go with if you was Arteta?
Wow. If it was me, I would do something similar to what Andrew said, a 4-3-3. I would surprise Pep. I think he will start Thomas Partey. Looking at his news conferences, he doesn't ever give anything away specifically. But then if you look back at his news conferences after games, there's some very subtle clues. I'm trying to remember the last one, but he was asked if a certain player was going to play or not. And I think it was talking about William Saliba, and he gave us a clue. And then, of course, a few weeks later, we find out Saliba's not even involved. And you look back at the news conference and you see him almost say that. So I watched the news conference today, and he only gave me the impression that he's going to play him. And the thing,
that's what I thought,
yeah. The thing with me is he said that Thomas Partey was ready to play, and I think it's quite simple. I think he's probably put it to Thomas Partey and said, "What do you think? I would like to play you. What do you think?" Because it's not easy to just chuck him in against Manchester City away. And from Thomas Partey's point of view, I would say that people are saying he's never played in the Premier League. Well, he has played against these teams in the Champions League, and he's played in England. He's done it quite a few times. So I don't think he's quite as fresh as, or this is as new to him as people are making out. So I think that they're going to put him in. And I also think that the people who think he's going to play defensive midfield, I don't think that's going to happen. It may happen once in a while, but I think that the reason that he signed for Arsenal, beyond any other reason, is the frustration at Atletico Madrid playing for arguably a more high-profile team, is that he's been kept in a cage. And he's been played in a very tight structure, played as a defensive midfielder, given a certain role. And you watch him for Ghana, Richard, and I watched him for Ghana twice this week. It was kind of painful watching that. But I watched him, and he plays as a box-to-box midfielder, almost as a number 10 sometimes. And they just let him have at it. And he is the most exciting player I've seen sign for Arsenal in I don't know how long. He has everything. And I knew that before I watched him play for Ghana. But the guy can break lines on the dribble. He can pass like no other. He can anticipate. He can destroy. He can do the whole thing. So I think that it's not too big of a risk to play him. And I think he'll play. So to the lineup, I would go with Leno, Bellerin, who's been playing well recently. If Tierney can play, of course, Tierney at left back in a 4. If not, then that changes everything. And then I played Luiz and Gabriel. The midfield might be interesting to many people, but I think that we're going to see this in time, which is Ainsley Maitland-Niles playing as the central left midfielder. Of course, he's arguably been playing that anyway when he plays as the left wing back. If you actually watch the game, we all watch the game. He's spending most of his time at central left midfield as far as positionally on the field. He's always wanted to play there. I think they've been waiting for this moment to unleash him. And I'm not sure if it'll happen on Saturday, but I hope it does. I'd play Maitland-Niles on the left, Thomas Partey on the right, and let them go box to box. And like Andrew says, I think he's going to surprise him. And I played Dani Ceballos as the defensive midfielder. And if you watch him recently, he's been playing that role more as a 2, but he looks very comfortable being the ball carrier, and he's also vastly improved his defensive game beyond where Granit Xhaka is. Up front, I'd play Saka on the left. Give us some. You've got to have width on one side, and then I bring Pepe in. And I bring Pepe in because Pepe needs to play for Arsenal like Mohamed Salah plays for Liverpool and play inside as an inside forward, get close to the goal to get those assists and shots off. And then I play Aubameyang as a centre forward. I'm not sure that that's going to happen tomorrow, but if you ask me to be the coach, then that's what I would do, Richard.
No. I mean, that's an interesting point because I do think that the formation is going to evolve into something similar to that. I'm not sure how quickly that's going to happen. I don't think it's. Arteta said today he's only going to have one training session basically with the whole squad back from international duty. So I don't know whether or not he's got enough time to work on a new formation in time for this game, possibly, but we'll see. I mean, it's interesting what Jonathan says there about for City. Obviously, they've got technically a few injuries. I don't think De Bruyne is actually going to miss the game. I think De Bruyne will play. I've got to be honest. I know they've got no strikers fit by the sound of it. It's amazing that a club with that many resources hasn't got any extra strikers they can play. Someone from the academy or somewhere. But anyway, it's their choice. If they go with no strikers again, then that's playing into our hands maybe a little bit. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's good that Aguero's not playing because he generally scores against us, doesn't he? So that's one probably positive from that point of view. But I mean, I think Thomas Partey will start. I don't think it'll be a different system, though. I think he'll still go with a 3-4-3. And I think it'll be probably Xhaka and Partey in midfield. I think Ainsley will play on the left, Bellerin on the right, and then probably Aubameyang, Lacazette. And I think he might go with Willian just for his extra experience at these type of games, maybe ahead of maybe Pepe or Saka, possibly. The good thing about Arteta is we never know, do we? We can never read what he's going to do because every time the team comes out before every game, there's always one or two little surprises in there, isn't it? You think, I wasn't expecting him to start or I wasn't expecting them to start. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was one or two of them as well coming. So we'll see. But, you know, and our resident Man City fan, Michael, says, he thinks he's fit to play. Yeah, I'll be amazed if De Bruyne, doesn't play. I'll be amazed if he doesn't because I don't think he was really injured, was he? It was more of a precaution that he was pulled out of the Belgium squad. So I'll be surprised if he's not playing. Obviously, I hope he's not playing because it'll help us, but I think he probably will. Sort of moving away from that sort of game, I know Andrew did mention it a little bit earlier just about this sort of project big picture that's obviously been in the news this week. It's been sort of rejected, hasn't it, by the clubs overall, but I think it's obvious that there's going to be some changes happening in the structure of football in this country, probably coming very soon. I think this is going to come back in a different form at some point quite soon. So, I mean, I don't know what you guys sort of thought of it all. I mean, obviously, I thought there was one or two sensible options in there, actually. And there was a few that maybe wasn't so workable, which is probably why it got rejected. I mean, what were your thoughts on it, Melvin, sort of overall about the restructuring of probably football in general, actually?
I thought what I read about it, I thought that the idea is quite good on the face of it. But when you dig a bit deeper, you see that all of a sudden there's a cartel going to be formed, which will be no good for football at all. I think it will be restructured. I don't think, for example, the League Cup should be done away with. All right, we might not think it's that good. There's a lot of clubs in the lower divisions that earn a lot of money out of it for them. So it should be a League Cup just for league teams and not for the Premiership. Perhaps that might be something to be structured differently. And as for how all this one rule, one vote, one club's going to go out the window, it's going to be the top six have 50% of the votes. That can't happen, as I say. It's a cartel. It's bad for the game. But the way things are, they're putting a gun to the Football League's head because a lot of clubs will go out of business. They're in a bad state to begin with. And now this COVID thing, they're in a right state. Yeah. So it might be, we'll own 90% of you, or we'll own nothing of you, but you won't even exist. So I think hopefully the Premier League will come back with a watered-down version. That is to say, Football League, don't get rid of it, but let the lower clubs play among themselves. And also with the top six having most of the votes. No, that shouldn't happen. It should be, the vote should be equal, whoever you are in the division, and every club should have the same vote. If they do something like that, then because otherwise they can pass whatever they like. They can say, "We're no one's getting relegated anymore." You know what I mean? It's too much power, and football shouldn't be about power, though it is to a degree. It should be about the best team wins, and not the one with the most power wins.
Yeah, no, completely. I don't think anybody would disagree with it either, really, would they? I mean, that should be how it is, but unfortunately, that's not how it seems to be evolving, does it, over the last few years, unfortunately? And I know Arsenal maybe get tied into it, because we are technically one of the big six, aren't we? But I do feel as though we are run in a slightly different way for some of the other bigger clubs. But anyway, I mean, what about yourself, Andrew? What you sort of made of all of this kind of project big picture and all that kind of stuff that's gone on.
Well, I agree with Melvin and pretty much everything he said. I think it's when you look through the proposals, I don't see what all the massive furore is about, really. We've got to do something with regards to helping the rest of the football pyramid. And yes, the Premier League are going to be giving away more of the money, but when you consider that it's going to be 2 teams less in the Premier League, the reduction should be sort of taken into account, really. It's going to be shared between 18 teams instead of 20. So the clubs remaining in the Premier League aren't going to lose out too much. So, yeah, I don't really like the idea of the League Cup going. I don't like the idea of B teams going into the Football League either. But apart from that, I don't see what the massive issue is, personally. What I don't want more than anything is one of the European Super League starting, because that'll be the end of football. And if this will placate all the top teams from doing that, at least for the time being, the next few years, then I'm all for it. And the last thing really that you've got to sort out is to just break away from Sky and BT and sort this out and have their own channel, like I've been going on about for ages. Set up a Netflix style channel whereby you can, as a fan, either pay one fee for a season ticket for your club only, or add a bit extra so you've got the season ticket for the entire league that your team is in. Or thirdly, add a bit more extra on top again and have a season ticket for all divisions. That way you're opting in to provide funds for the football pyramid yourself as a fan as well. Even if you don't watch it, you've got the option of watching some games in the lower leagues and also helping them out at the same time. And you imagine if it's a online streaming service like Netflix, and you've got people all over the globe doing that, then the lower league clubs are going to make so much more money than they do now. I mean, at the moment, I think League One and League Two as a whole get about £1 million between all of them. There's absolutely no way on earth that they won't make tons more than that if they open it up to fans to actually subscribe directly all across the world. Even Stockport County, I bet, have got like fans, spread across the globe. And I bet they wish they could. I bet they wish they could watch all the home and away games. So I think it just makes so much sense. I don't understand why they're not doing it sooner. And I understand that in March the rights are up for negotiation again. So I really wonder whether it just won't go to a bidding rights, and they'll actually jump and go for it. And I hope they do. Yeah.
Sky can't afford that to happen, though, can they? Sky can't.
No, of course they can. Well, Sky can't, but Sky can't. But they're asking still ask for money back after everyone putting themselves in danger last season to finish the league, which they did, and we finished it really, really well. And they still want money back because it wasn't the product they paid for. I mean, get out of here. I mean, God's sake, you've got to get...
They're making enemies at the wrong time, aren't they, Andrew? Really?
Absolute ridiculous decision. And, I mean, that's just shooting themselves in the foot, and they deserve everything they get.
Yeah, no. I mean, I agree. I mean, a lot of people seem to be against the Big Six getting extra voting rights, which I think we'd all agree with, even though technically we are one of the Big Six, but I wouldn't want it to be like that. It needs to be more spread out across football in general, because the top six aren't the only clubs that matter in football, are they? And I'm confident enough in my club, our club, that we can survive and be successful regardless of how it's reorganised. Maybe other clubs haven't got that confidence in their own stability. I mean, Mike, what do you think about it? I'm quite interested to know what you think about all this, actually.
Yeah, I think that first of all, I loved what Melvin and Andrew said. There's you've got a great panel here, Richard. So kudos, man. just fascinating listening to them talk about this. And so I've got some of the same thoughts, some of the different thoughts that I have. I actually think that Rick Parry, who I think has been the main guy thrust behind this, I've got a feeling that there might be more to this than meets the eye, and that he knew, or these people who've organised this knew, and I think it's more than Liverpool and Manchester United, by the way. I think that they knew that the only way to get people to the table, to get all the Premier League to the table, was to do what they did. Because I'm trying to be a bit of a detective here again, Richard. But did you know that every one of the 20 clubs voted against the proposal, even the people that brought it? So that makes me think that the motive, weird. The motive was to get people to the table.
It was maybe 16, 17 voted against it.
Yeah. Well, I think the motive was to get everybody to the table. So they've gone and put a proposal down that they knew would not be accepted. And so they have an alternative plan, which is now being worked on. But they had to do that in order to get everyone to the table. But my personal thoughts on what they have thrown forward so far, Richard, I think that the League Cup being scrapped, I would not do that. I'll tell you what I would do. I'd take away the European place from that, because for clubs like, we're selfish. So from Arsenal's point of view, and I'm trying to be unselfish here, if you take away the League Cup, then that's one less competition that you have to offer to your squad players. So then all of a sudden, the standard of squads that top teams can have will drop, because you can't play them all in the Premier League. So I like the Europa League. Exactly. I like the League Cup. But I would take away the European spot, Richard, because if you take away the European spot, then coaches like Arteta and Klopp and these guys would not be tempted to try to win it. Because I think that's what's going on, because there's a European place. If you take that away, then maybe they'll play the kids, and I think everyone would be cool. We all know we're going to watch the kids. That's what it's for anyway. I like Andrew said, I like some of the proposals. I like 18 teams in the Premier League. I think that would allow us to have a winter break. Don't put the winter break at Christmas. Everyone loves British football because of maybe less games at Christmas, but don't take the winter break away. Have the winter break after, in the new year, mid-January, where it gets colder as well for the players. I think the Community Shield is a bunch of nonsense. I've always thought that. I don't understand having a game between last season's winners of two competitions when they've both got transfers and new players, and it's not actually the teams that just won the league and the FA Cup. I think that's a nonsense anyway. I do think that what we might find, though, is that there'll be they might get rid of the second division, and they'll have, instead of 72 clubs plus Premier League, they'll have I forget how many is in Division 2 now, but they'll get rid of one of those, and let's say there's 22 teams, so they'll have 50 professional. Have I got that right? Yeah, 50 professional teams plus the Premier League, so that when the money does get distributed, you can actually help those teams who are quote-unquote professional, because you're not spreading it around 72 teams. So I think we unfortunately might have to take that Division 2 and make it, like the conference, and make them semi-pro in order for the others to survive. And then the last
maybe regionalise it as well, perhaps.
Yeah, well, there's that too. There's, there's so many pieces to it. And then the last thing that I've always thought and never been given an opportunity to talk about is the Super League. Everyone says that this is a step to that. I don't understand why the Premier League is interested in the Super League, because the Premier League has the Super League already. They have the most watched. I mean, I live in the USA. We have unlimited coverage of Premier League. I get more coverage than you guys do. I know that's upsetting to hear, but the coverage here is unbelievable. The people that watch it is endless, and this is just the United States. I'm not talking about India and China and Africa, where it's even more popular. I don't know why the Premier League are incentivized to go to a Super League, because they have almost everything going for them anyway. I'll stop there. That's too much. Sorry.
No. Mark says, just ask you a question about restructuring it. I mean, obviously he's meant 18. I guess it's just relegating more teams, isn't it? Maybe over 2 seasons or something. Maybe relegating extra teams. Is that what you'd be thinking? Yeah,
I don't know if you do it. Maybe it's brutal to do it in one season and send 2 more teams down. Maybe that's okay.
2 seasons. Yeah,
maybe do that over 2 seasons or what have you. But yeah, you have an 18-team league. I think everyone's been wanting that for a long time. But there is a criticism of British football. It's just too much of it. So the Bundesliga has 18 teams. It's a better structure. And let's do 18 teams.
No, I mean, I would like to see that actually, but how we do it is going to be difficult because, like you said, we can't relegate 5 teams in one season. I don't think that would be the right way to do it. It would be difficult to do. I mean, Michael seems to disagree with you, wanting to make the pro club semi-pro, but maybe needs must. Maybe that's what it's going to be about, isn't it?
It's not what I would do, though, Richard. Ideally, you would not do that. Let me just put that straight.
Yeah.
That's not an idea. I mean, it's not what you have. It's not what you want to do. It's not what I want to do. But if there's this much money and this much money fits this many clubs, not this many clubs, then you've got to do what you've got to do. And it's unfortunate that you might have to go to 3 professional leagues so you can actually keep everybody solvent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I get that point, definitely. I mean, it is, unfortunately, we're in a situation now financially when a lot of the sort of smaller teams down in the lower divisions can't survive anyway, as they are. And if we can try to make them survive, if it means them having to go semi-pro, then maybe that might have to be done at some point anyway, just because they can't survive as things stand, not at this moment in time anyway, not unless we can restructure it in a way to help them, which doesn't seem to be, well, it's not easy to sort out, is it? But having listened to you guys, it makes me feel that maybe they should get more fans involved in these decisions as opposed to just the executives at clubs who literally only care about themselves and the money they're going to make out of it.
Yeah, we line, isn't it?
Interest other than we want to see the best for football because we're football fans ultimately and we want to see what's best for the game. And unfortunately, the people running football are more interested in how much money is at stake for them, I think. And it would be definitely a good idea to have more fan involvement. Yeah, go on, Andrew.
I just want to bring up one other thing as well because it makes sense to do it now rather than at the end of the show when we've sort of any other business part. What I'm concerned about is that the owners of these the biggest clubs have seen during this period that we're under now that their clubs can quite easily survive and actually thrive without any fans. Now, these owners aren't, dyed-in-the-wool fans. They're not locals. They don't care. So what they're seeing at the moment is that their clubs are absolutely fine without fans coming into the ground. And this is what I'm concerned about. So, say for argument's sake, they're losing, I don't know, say £1 million, whatever, £1 million per game. I'm sure that the savings that they are making by not having to get the police, the ground police, not having to get all the people in to sell all the food, not having to get all the stewarding, not having to get the ambulance services and everything, which you've all got to pay for. I'm sure that the losses are minimal because they haven't got to outlay any of that money. Also, fans are a problem to clubs, at the end of the day. Yes, they've got no atmosphere in the ground.
Our fans are a problem sometimes.
Well, this is the thing is, you say that it's that we are at the end of the day we are a problem because whether you like it or not, the owners of clubs don't see us as the lifeblood of the club. What they see us as a nuisance because just for something like the club being fined, for some racist abuse that some of the fans would come out with. That's a problem to the club. They don't worry about the racist abuse. They just say, "Oh God, we're going to have got a £2 million fine to pay," or whatever. It's an issue. Getting the fans out of the way to solve all that, and you haven't got any traffic congestion around the stadium anymore. You haven't got to worry about all that sort of stuff. Fights breaking out. So they would be quite happy, I'm sure, to go onto this streaming service and make the money that way.
I'm sure some of the owners would. I'm sure some. I mean, Michael makes a point there about prefer no fans. I mean, coming from a Man City fan, that's quite funny actually. Seeing as after their games are played with no fans when they were allowed in.
It will never happen.
Basically,
it won't ever happen. Of course, I mean, fans are important.
When you've got the owners of the clubs are in a different country altogether, they don't care.
Yeah, no,
this is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah,
if you're a supporter, like Man City support, for example, we've got all the money in the world, and they go down that route. We don't need home fans. Of course, they need home fans. Number one, for home fans bring in more revenue than it costs you for the police and everything else. That's number one. Number two, you want the fans to get behind the club, because after a while, the Man City fans, if they can't go to the game and everyone else is going to their home game, they're going to get fed up with it, because not every club is as rich as Manchester City, and it's just madness to think we're not going to have. We don't. Of course, we want fans. There's nothing better than watching your team score a goal and you're there and you're cheering.
I 100% agree with you. Don't think this is my opinion. I don't want this. I just said it's a worry of mine. That they're going
to be worried about it, Andrew. I really don't.
I can understand some owners are probably. I don't care if fans are in the ground or not. I can see that they might not do so for the reasons that you give, but I think everybody understands in football that fans in the ground is massively important, not only to the big clubs, but also to the smaller clubs as well, because even more so for the smaller clubs, that's what keeps them afloat, isn't it? Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Man United could survive from the fans all over the world that would pay to watch the streaming of the games. They would, in their thousands and millions, would pay. So Arsenal would be fine and the big clubs would, but it's the smaller clubs without fans have got no chance, absolutely no chance whatsoever.
No, of course not.
And
What rubbish have we actually mentioned about Man City today, by the way?
I think that was me about the fans, them playing in front of no fans, but that was a joke.
Oh, right. Okay. Just a joke. You can't take back.
I just think that with the smaller clubs,
fan as well, yeah.
With the smaller clubs, they need the money because they don't get the television rights as the bigger club. But also, sometimes in certain grounds, the small clubs, it's like a goal start. They're so close to the pitch. The smaller grounds, they intimidate the opposition. Good luck to them as well, and you've got half a chance if you're not as big as the other club. You've got half a chance because your fans are behind you. And really,
look at Sheffield United. Sheffield United's results went off a cliff when after lockdown, didn't they?
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, DWT's got a point there. Obviously, most fans in the world watch the games on telly because the stadiums can't fit them all in. As much as people would probably like to be there, most people have no choice other than to watch them on TV, don't they, throughout the world. And it's, so it is needed. We kind of need both, don't we? We need fans in the stadium and we need fans, an audience on TV. And it's difficult to I suppose, to get that balance right in terms of the finances and where it all goes, I guess. And this is what they need to sort of sort out, don't they, going forward, really, and make sure that the money that comes in from TV is put out to the right people that really need it, and give a lot more to the smaller clubs to help them, because they don't really benefit from Sky, do they, very much, League Two and stuff like that. They don't. And
no, say about £1 million per for the league to share.
Yeah.
And Michael Salt, can we just say, we're not saying that we don't need fans or anything like that. I just raised a concern that owners of clubs that are in different countries across the world, and not talking about Man City specifically at all, that they are seeing that their clubs are quite happily running along, still making lots of money without us fans. We're not saying that that's what we want or need or anything like that at all. We're completely against that. So just wanted to point that out, Michael.
What I'm quite surprised about, not just this year, but going back 10, 20 years, there hasn't been more bigger clubs have feeder clubs, do a little bit of a deal with smaller clubs that are in not one division away, but two or three divisions away. They say, right, we're going to back you a little bit. We're not going to pay for all your players, obviously. We'll help you out, but we want first choice in any of your players that come through the ranks. And if the money we want to give you is not good enough, then you can go. You can sell your player to whoever you want to. But we must have first choice. That would work both ways.
We've got something with Boreham Wood, haven't we? Because the women play there, and I think we've got some sort of relationship with them, haven't we? I don't know how it works financially.
Yeah, but
we pay £1 million a year, don't we?
Do you?
Yeah.
To first team.
We pay them £1 million a year.
That's just money, yeah. It's good.
Use the ground,
well. That's another thing, yeah. I'm talking about a larger scale throughout the country.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what I mean, you see. That's what I said before. I do think that fans have a lot more understanding of how the football works as opposed to just the business, which is all that seems to get sort of mentioned, really. And Mike keeps dropping in and out. I think his signals must keep dropping out. Obviously, Jonathan there talking about the merchandise of TV rights. Yeah. But, I mean, I don't think that's going to be the way it will go, actually. I think football will... I think there needs to be changes, but I don't think it's going to change dramatically. I think obviously fans might be coming back into the stadiums quite soon, hopefully, and we'll start to get things a little bit more back to how they were, perhaps. But I certainly feel as though this project big picture isn't going away. It's gonna be something. You know, I think what Mike says might be true actually about getting the idea on the table actually, and I think that could be. This is maybe the start of it, and you know they need to iron out a few more details, don't they, and make it right for everybody. But if it's the start of restructuring in a way that's going to be fairer for everybody, then I'm all in favour of it, because I don't really like the way football's gone over the last 10 years in particular, maybe even longer. So if we can get this sorted out now, maybe all this COVID stuff might help that, because they've almost had to restart a lot of things because of the fans not being there and what have you. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But I definitely would be in favour of some sort of changes anyway, somewhere along the line. If we sort of move away from that now, otherwise we could be here all night talking about this, because it is a big issue. I'm sure we'll talk about it again. The other thing I wanted to move on to, I know Mike's just dropped out again, is obviously Arsene Wenger released his book this week. I don't know whether you guys have read it at all yet. I've read bits of it. I've only got it yesterday, so I'm on chapter 4 now, which is good. But I don't know what you guys have made of it so far. I mean, have you got the book yet, Melvin? Have you had a look at it?
I haven't got the book, but if I do get it, I'll only read the first half of it.
Well, the first half, not even Arsenal.
I think the second
No,
half.
you don't even get to Arsenal then. I've literally got it's a 6 hour something audio book, because I missed the delivery yesterday. It's being redelivered tomorrow. My book. I got the one of the signed copies, luckily from Waterstone, so that's being redelivered tomorrow. But I've got the audio book download as well. It's a 6 hour something long, and I've got about an hour and a half left. So I listened to nearly all of it today.
Oh, you have listened to some of it? I was told it was in French.
No. It's great though that he's reading it himself. It makes it so much better. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I've heard a clip of it. I thought. I mean, obviously, I've got the actual book. I've got it here. I bought it. But
yeah,
I mean,
I can't wait for mine tomorrow.
I've heard bits of clips of it. Obviously, with Arsene Wenger actually reading it, which made me wish I'd maybe done that as well, because that'd be amazing to actually have him reading his book to you.
Really good.
That would be quality. I've had to read it myself so far, but I'm enjoying it actually. It's good to get an insight into his early life, his childhood, and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, most of us perhaps wasn't really aware of exactly how he grew up and where he was and stuff. And it's been really interesting. Obviously, I haven't even got to the really good bit yet when he comes to Arsenal. He's just joined Monaco, where I'm at. So I've got to go through Monaco, and obviously his spell in Japan as well first. But I'm really enjoying it actually, and I know he's going to get a lot of criticism for it, and I know people have been saying that he doesn't go into the details about some of the heavy defeats that we've had, you know, with the Man United games, all this kind of stuff, which I'm not really bothered about. He doesn't need to go into details about that. We know what happened. We saw it. Do you know what I mean? It's just more the insight I'm looking at, interested in his life, and it looks like he's very obsessed with football. Maybe in the end, that's what perhaps cost him a little bit, you know, his obsession with it all, and he threw everything into it, didn't he? Not only at Arsenal, but before that as well, he was the same. And maybe sometimes, you know, your obsessions can not always be make you think so clearly, maybe, and perhaps sometimes that might have been what happened to him a little bit in the end, I suppose. But we'll get on to that bit later on in the book, I suppose, when I get into it more. But I've enjoyed it so far. And I think it's good that he's brought it out now rather than maybe rushing it through, perhaps, you know, when he first left. I'm glad he's given it a couple of years for everybody to calm down a little bit, although there does seem to be... I've heard quite a lot of rubbish going on social media the last week or so about Arsene Wenger, really, which is... I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's going to be, alongside Sir Henry Norris and Herbert Chapman, he's probably the third most important person in the history of the club, actually. And that needs to be respected, whether or not we agree with how things ended and whether or not, whatever that is. I think history will show that in 10, 20, 30 years' time, his name will be mentioned alongside the most important people in the club's history. And I hope that he can actually finally get the respect he deserves for everything that he did, really. Have you seen the book yet, Mike? Have you read it yet?
No, I've listened.
Is it available in America yet?
Yeah. It's I've read all the quotes, and I've listened to about 2 or 3 interviews on the BBC. I was about to listen later today to the one he's just done with The Athletic with David Ornstein. That's probably interesting, but no, I haven't bought the book yet. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You're going to get it, are you? You're going to get it when it.
Have you managed to listen to the London Palladium interview he gave?
Yeah, I've watched that
That
as
was
well.
very
yeah.
good. Very good interview.
Yeah.
that.
The most interesting thing so far actually hasn't come from the book. It's come from one of those interviews. It's that when we moved into the new stadium, we were put under what you can call financial fair play by the bank.
Yeah.
And basically we weren't allowed to spend more than 50% of our annual income, complete income, on wages. And that was stipulated by the bank. And well before, financial fair play was thought of and brought in to the Premier League. So that is the reason why, we were so bad. It was the bank. Well,
yeah,
we literally we went from selling 30-something players to having to sell our players in their prime, 23, 24, 25.
I mean,
one of the things that I think Wenger's never been given credit for is, he says, I mean, it's going to probably be in the book, but he was in that the thing he did at the Palladium. We were talking about it when he knew that 10 years after moving into the stadium, it was going to be difficult and that he wouldn't be able to have the same success on the pitch as he had previously. And unfortunately, the fan base couldn't accept that or didn't accept that or didn't want to accept it and expected the team to stay at the same level, even despite the fact moving. I mean, what other clubs built a stadium from scratch and maintained a level where they were before? Most of them ended up getting relegated, haven't they? Not many clubs have done that, and yet Arsene Wenger was able to stabilise us through that difficult time, keep us in the top four to bring the Champions League money in, which was so important. But it's almost like all that's dismissed because we wasn't invincible anymore, and we were losing 8-2 to Man United, and we were losing 6-0 to Chelsea or whatever else it might have been. And it seems like the overall picture's been forgotten about just by a few silly results and the fact that he had to sell on them players. As Andrew said, he had no choice. We couldn't keep them. We just couldn't afford it. We had to sell them. And
yeah, but you're right, Richard. But just to play devil's advocate for a moment, it wasn't so much the 6-0, 6-2s and whatever, Liverpool 6-1s or whatever. It was the 2-1s away to Swansea when we're 1-0 up, controlling the game, and you know what's going to happen. You know we're going to get beat. And they hurt me as much as the 6-2s, funnily enough.
Probably more, actually. Probably more.
Yeah, it could be more. You're right.
Yeah. No, that's true. But I mean, I think that happens to everybody. I don't think, I don't think it wasn't like these were happening all the time, were they? It seemed to be what had happened was, I think after 2006 Champions League final, I think Arsene Wenger wanted to win the Champions League so much. He said it the other day, didn't he? That would have been the perfect sort of end to that era of that team winning it that year. And when we didn't, I think he was so determined to try and win it that he almost threw away other competitions. As soon as we got knocked out of the Champions League, every year the season fell apart, didn't it, for 3 or 4 weeks afterwards, because he was so disappointed. And I think everybody was so disappointed at the club because of that, really. And maybe that didn't help really in where we could have maybe gone. But I do think he probably did the best he could have done in the circumstances. And I don't think anybody would have done any better.
And that's in the top four, as long as he did, with the quality of players that he had at his disposal.
And the football we played as well. The football we played
unbelievable. Unbelievable. What would we give for that now? It's just that's amazing. Feat of management that he's got us to that stage. But he just had overstayed his. He's overstayed the season too long, didn't he?
I think Michael's comment there is quite good because it kind of, I think Arsene Wenger's got more respect from other clubs than he does from his own fans, actually, sometimes. And maybe that's because people outside haven't experienced it to the same degree, maybe, but we'll see. I mean, go on, Mike, you wanted to come in there.
Yeah. I want to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here. So my perspective of Arsene Wenger, much like everybody else, the first however many years, the first half of his reign, he was an absolute legend and still is in my eyes for what he's done, like you said, Richard, to transform the club. And he's responsible for so many positive things and much positive that's happening now. You can feed back to Arsene Wenger. For me, and I'm a coach, I've been coaching for 30 years, and the things changed for me around about halfway through his reign, where I had a United fan who's my best friend, and he was chipping away at me for years and years and years, and I would never accept what he told me. And he kept on saying to me, he says, because you're a coach, he said, Arsene Wenger was perfect for the team that he built. To his credit, when he came and he had the best team in Europe, best team in the league, the best team in Europe, and he was perfect for that scenario because he managed through his own on and off the pitch skills to bring a group of guys together that needed very little coaching. They were so good, and the team he chose was so well balanced that we won. I'm not saying in spite of him because that's too dramatic. It's not the case. But we won because he was capable of doing that. When that changed, and when the league changed and football changed and it became tactical, it was about halfway through Wenger's reign. At that point, I'm not saying we should necessarily have got rid of Wenger, but eyes needed to be wide open there. Because Arsene Wenger, in my mind, as much of a legend as I thought he was and still think he is, has never, in my mind, been a tactical coach. And when football changed and became tactical, because it did, around about halfway through his reign, he struggled. And these results that you guys are talking about, and these disappointments, these were tactical games where he didn't have the best team on the field. His team was as good as, or maybe sometimes even better, but a tactical challenge was thrown out there on the field. And he was also not a sideline coach. He didn't want to help them during the game either, which always spoke to me about a little bit of lack of tactical understanding and game knowledge during the game. And I know that this doesn't speak to most Arsenal fans. They don't want to hear this. Just my opinion. But Arsene Wenger, probably for his own sake, needed to stop coaching Arsenal a while back when the game became that way, because I think he exposed himself when the game became tactical.
Also, I do agree.
He does touch on that in his book, actually, a little bit. He does. It's more of the psychology of it all, more perhaps than that was what his style of management was, rather than, and I agree, he probably wasn't a great tactical coach. I don't think he was. But he, like you said, he maybe got away with it up to a point and then it became more difficult. But I do think that other circumstances were there as well at that time to make it more difficult for him. Go on, Melvin.
Can I also go ahead, sorry.
Just one thing, sorry to interrupt. Just one thing, not only was he not perhaps as good tactically as some of the other coaches that were coming along, at that time, Chelsea become big money bags. You had not just Man United to worry about to spend more then. Not only we had to spend much less because of the stadium, but all of a sudden Chelsea come on the scene and they could just blow us out the water. And later on in life, then Man City came on the scene. So it wasn't just tactics. I think a few things went against him.
I would much rather watch a Wenger team playing football the way Wenger wanted it to be played than any tactical football at all. You know, I would have that any day of the week. I find the really tactical type of football so boring. I would go back to that. It was exhilarating that Wenger team in full flight. Exhilarating to watch. So exciting. It's unbelievable. And I would have that any day of the week. And the thing is, with the regards to not coaching on the sidelines, he had a firm belief that he shouldn't. He wanted his players to be intelligent enough to work things out for themselves on the pitch. And that was his firm belief. So that's why he didn't stand at the sidelines barking orders all the time.
Right.
But anyway, I totally get your point, though, Michael. Mike, sorry. But I would have that exhilarating football any day over tactical football.
So would I, Andrew. And I totally agree with you. So would I. And that's even under Arteta. I love Arteta. The football is a little bit robotic and its passing patterns.
Yeah,
it's highly tactical. Yeah. But here's the little twist for me, is that Andrew's right. That football was more fun. It was more enjoyable. And would I like to watch it? For sure I would. But you don't control both teams on the field, though. And when football became tactical and the opposing coaches became more tactical, Wenger didn't respond to that because I don't think he had the tools to. Hence why Arsenal for a decade were wide open in the back. And he didn't ever respond to that. So you knew when Arsenal went one goal down on the counter-attack against a good team, it was 2, it was 3. And it was over and over and over again that, oh gosh, I've just advertised your channel there, Richard. Anyway, so I just feel that as much as the romance of loving his football is still in my heart, and I love him and I love football, when the opponent throws a different challenge at you, you have no choice. You have to adapt, otherwise you get run over. And I think that's why Arsenal just fell away and away and away and away, because he didn't adapt, because I don't think he was tactically capable of adapting. He needed a team that was ready to go, best team in the league, and he didn't have that team at the time, so he wasn't suited to Arsenal. And the other piece, and then I'll sign off, is he was given all these offers to manage other teams in other countries, and I'm not sure this has ever been mentioned a whole lot, but he never took any of those, and maybe he did stay because Arsenal is number one in his heart. I've never been entirely sure that the English press never, ever asked tactical questions. No pundits ever asked tactical questions. No journalists ever asked tactical questions. And when I moved abroad, and I've moved abroad a few times, you go to other countries, all the people, the journalists, the press, the pundits, all want to ask tactical questions. And Arsene Wenger was never comfortable with that. And I think that was the number one reason. I know it goes against the romantic. That was the number one reason he actually stayed at Arsenal, was because he wouldn't have survived in the other countries, because the leagues are more tactical and you get questioned by the press every day on tactics. And that doesn't happen in the Premier League. Never has. And until they change it, it never will.
Another reason he never left Arsenal was a couple of reasons. Number one, like you say, wouldn't get challenged. Number two, at Arsenal, he had a lot of fat on his body, didn't he? He could afford not to produce for a few years, and he wasn't going to get the sack. That's number two. And number three, he was also paid top dollar.
Yeah.
So I think it's not just the tactic side of it that he didn't
best paid manager in the world at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose he earned that, though, didn't he, by the success that he
absolutely, yeah. But one thing I'll disagree with is that he did adapt, because he completely changed that team from when Vieira left. We went from big, powerful midfield players, ball carriers with power and pace, to a team of midgets just knocking the ball around. He completely changed the Spanish way of playing, the tiki-taka type of football, where we all got really frustrated, whereby we just weren't shooting. We were trying to pass the ball into the net, if you remember.
Yeah,
and that was a complete turnaround, tactics-wise, from one to the other. After the team disbanded pretty much in 2006.
Yeah, that was more style of play, though, Andrew. I think, wasn't it? That was he chose a different style of play and a different type of player. I'm just talking about the tactics that the opponent throws at you during the game.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
disagree with that at all. Paul touches on it here as well. I mean, he does mention in his book about, he didn't coach to the opposition's weaknesses. And sometimes you have to, don't you? Because you have to do that. And maybe that's something, Wenger does say that in his book, that he never looks at the other team's weaknesses. He just tries to look to his own strengths, so his own team. And sometimes that maybe did cost us, And I think Jonathan touched on it as well. That game against Man City he's talking about, when we won 2-0 and we went there with a plan to win that game, which is something that Wenger very rarely did he? He didn't go to play to win a game. He went there to play the Arsenal way.
Well, that's what I loved about him. I did
as well. It did cost us games, didn't it? It did cost us.
Absolutely. And it's wrong.
The reason when he made the change, the reason that tick-attack football didn't work was two reasons. Number one, we had a poor defence all that time, so we couldn't afford to lose the ball. And number two, we never had Messi up front. Apart from that, it was perfect.
I honestly, I think if we didn't move stadiums, if we'd have stopped at the beautiful Highbury, we would have just carried on winning.
Yeah.
We would.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Well,
because we would have constantly bought good replacements for players. We wouldn't have had to sell all our crown jewels and our captain every year.
Richard, I've got to run now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, it was a pleasure seeing you.
Nice to speak to you again, Mike.
Good luck with your channel, Mike. Good luck later with your channel.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming on, Mike. Yeah, take it easy, man.
Anytime.
See you soon.
Yeah, so Mike's off. He's doing another show on his own channel. So he's busy man. He's got to leave us, but it was great to have Mike on there, listening to his thoughts as well about it all. Very, very, very good points that he made as well. I just feel Wenger does deserve perhaps more respect than he's been getting, certainly from a large section of Arsenal fans, even now, nearly 2 years later when he's left. In fact, more than 2 years since he's left. It doesn't even seem that long ago, does it? But I don't know. For me, he'll always be number one, I think, just because of what he brought really to Arsenal, things I never thought I'd ever see. You know, we had success before with George Graham and whatnot, which was great, but he took it to another level for a long time. And for that reason alone, I will always have massive respect for Arsene Wenger. And I say I believe he's up there in the top 3 or 4 most important people in the whole history of Arsenal. And I think
definitely a Premier League, English football.
English football, but in particular in Arsenal's history, without Arsene Wenger, the club wouldn't. And he's right what he said the other day. I heard him at the podium when he said that, you know, from where Arsenal were as a club in 1996 to where they were in 2018 when he left, the club had evolved and moved so much further forward. I know football had changed, and it was inevitable that it would happen, but he was part of that process, and he was the main driving force behind the change and bringing the club where it is today. And any success that we now go on and have in the future is because of the success that Arsene Wenger brought us in the early days, the move to the stadium, and to put us in a position where we're able to go on, hopefully in the future, and have a lot more success. In the same way that maybe what Herbert Chapman brought us in the 30s, every success we've had since then has been because of that. And I think going forward now, any success that we have in the future will be down to what Arsene Wenger brought us initially. And I think everybody needs to just accept that. And whether or not you agree with the way he left and this, that and the other, the last few years wasn't great. We'll all admit that. But he did the best he could do, I believe, with what he had at his disposal. And he maybe stayed a year or two too long.
Just to clarify, when I said that as well, it's not because I didn't want him at the club anymore or anything like that. When I said he should have left a bit earlier than he did, the reason I said that is because I just hated looking at him, looking just like a broken man on the sidelines, and all the abuse he was getting, and I just wanted to cry for him. I just felt so sorry for the bloke, and that is the reason why I think he should have gone earlier, because the abuse he was getting from our own fans was horrendous and totally unnecessary, and I just felt gutted for the guy. I really did, and that's why. That is why I wished he could have gone earlier, because I didn't want to see him going through it all.